Greetings, 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 and salutations, one and all. Welcome, 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 welcome to the night shift. It's a brand spanking new week right here on the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. I want to say big ups to all those who have it locked, those on TuneIn Radio. The night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. Across the pond, One Harmony Radio. Top of the morning to you guys over there in the UK. Those listening on WGLRO. The home of the Donnie Walker Morning Show, taking you from the sheets to the streets. Big ups to you. Of course, those on PEMGTV.com, welcome, welcome, welcome. And those right here at the home of the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. Glad to have you. Couldn't do it without you. And you have my word. I wouldn't even try. Kicking it off with Farmer Nappy and Dean Fraser. Track is called So Amazing. And if it's one thing we're gonna have tonight, like every other night, quite an amazing show. But this man that we're talking tonight, boy, you'll be amazed, cause I am. Too much H2O. Tell me why you wet me down, cause I don't know why this girl behaving so. She make plenty water flow, broken me up down below. You don't know what you're doing to me when I hold on to your body. Go down, make it rain when you go down, girl. You having the right remedy when you do it effortlessly. Go down, girl, this papa was amazing, so amazing. You know pressure does bust pipe and you keep doing it fast by making me crazy, oh so crazy. You know pressure does bust pipe and you keep doing it. Like you're making it rain, oh gosh, my girl, you're making it rain. But I spin ain't gon' be the same, she ain't gon' be the same. When you get in position to surround the place with your water, girl, surround the place with your water, girl, surround the place with your water, girl. Oh na na na. I want to say thanks to Pulse Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show. When being in the moment is priceless, Pulse Media Group will take care of your needs. Whether you just want to take some stills, you just want to video the moment, or you want to do what I'm doing right here on kevinstew.com and streaming it, Pulse Media can provide for you the means to do so. Not only that, you want to create a website? Pulse Media can help with that too, and with the hosting of the site. Pulse Media Group, give them a call 754-999-6020 or visit them at pulseemg.com and tell them DJ Kevin Stew sent you. So amazing. Dean Fraser, Farmer Nappy. Soca music at its best. Now, I those of you who saw my post earlier, and those of you that caught the show last week, have an idea of whose show it is tonight. I'm just a tool. I'm just facilitating. Tonight it's
Ooh, a journey. We're gonna be taken on a journey, and I I don't even have words to describe this journey that we're gonna go on. I've been waiting for this moment for quite a while, and when I had that initial conversation to to request for this to happen, to get that, sure, I'll be honored to do so. I was like blown away. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you none other than the man himself, Mr. Richard Miles.
Hey,
Richard,
how you
good
doing?
evening.
Good evening, Kevin. How you doing?
I am well, I am well, I am well. Thank you, sir, for taking the time out to join us tonight. I want to say a quick hello to a few people joining us in the stew pot. And for those of you who are new to the night shift and to kevinstew.com, the stew pot is where we interact on kevinstew.com. It's what others call a chat room, but we're fancy, so we call it the stew pot. So, good evening to you guys in the pot. Marlon, wicked show. Again, good to have you back, Marlon, host of Real Rockers, which broadcasts from 7 to 10 Eastern Time, just before my show on Mondays and Wednesdays. Marlon, it was great to have you back. Julie, hello. Guests in the chat room, big ups to you. You can change your name if you so desire by clicking in that little box above the bigger text box and where it says guest and a number, and you can change your name if you decide to. If you want to remain anonymous, that's fine too. Now, y'all would probably be wondering, what's the big deal about Richard Miles? Well, I will let him tell it. What I will say, however, is he started an amazing organization doing amazing things out of Dallas, Texas. An organization called Miles of Freedom, which is a really cool name, not because of his name, but because of what the organization stands for. And Richard, if you'd be so kind as to give us a quick overview about that. Miles of Freedom.
Yes,
What is the
sir.
organization for? What do they do?
Yes, sir. So, man, once again, I just appreciate this opportunity to share the airways with you. And Miles of Freedom is a nonprofit organization. This is our seventh year, and our mission is to provide holistic support for individuals, families, and communities impacted by incarceration. And the name Miles, while it is my last name, it's actually acronyms for motivating, inspiring, law abiding, enthusiastic, and successful. And that's what we
Mm,
try to be every day, and that's who we try to portray. So it's acronyms of who we are as people.
I love it. I love it. Now, you said this organization, it is a non for profit and has been
Yes, sir.
around for 7 years.
Yes, sir. We started in 2012. Yes, sir.
What got the program started? What inspired you to start the organization?
Right. That's a good question. So, in February of 2012, I was finally fully exonerated from the state of Texas. I was wrongfully incarcerated at the age of 19. I served 15 years in prison for a murder and attempted murder that I had no knowledge of. And so, through a lot of advocacy, in which I believe we'll get into tonight, I was
Mm-hmm.
released in 2009 at the age of 34, fully exonerated 2 years later. And in Texas, there's a particular compensation that a person is allotted, and we took that money and started the grassroots organization of Miles of Freedom.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Not that you were wrongfully incarcerated, but that
Yes, sir.
you you had the heart to go ahead and start this organization. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. Well, before we get into where you got arrested and imprisoned. Who is Richard Miles? When you were growing up, who did they know you as? What were you known for? What were the things that you got involved in?
Man, that's an interesting question. I mean, I got locked up at the age of 19, so I had a pretty short lived life that I could say. So, I mean, what people knew of me was I was still a young teenager.
Right.
I was still in my developmental stages. I went to, I was raised up in a household. We were very spiritually guided. My dad was a minister. My mom was a school teacher. They enforced education and church. And so growing up, I went to a pretty nice high school in Dallas, a Skyline High School, and I kind of studied different vocations. So from an educational standpoint, I wanted to be a plastics engineer. That's what I went to school for in high school. But I was incarcerated at the age of 19 before I could actually pursue my college degree. So I think my upbringing was very spiritually guided, if somebody was to ask, and it was very educational centered with the family.
Okay, so which then takes us to the hot point, the hot topic of why were you incarcerated? What happened?
Sir. Yeah, I mean, I can take you. I'm gonna take you back. I was probably about 18 years old, and I had graduated from high school. And as I said earlier, I was pursuing going to TSTC, which is a college in Waco, to take plastics engineering. And so I left home and moved in with one of the managers at McDonald's. That's where I worked at.
Okay.
And during that year that I was out from my mom's house one night, May 15th, 1994, I was over one of my friend's house in Robin Oaks apartments. I went over there earlier that day to visit my girlfriend and stayed over there all day. Probably about 1 o'clock, I was ready to go home, but the buses stopped running in Dallas. And so I paid my friend Ernest to drive me from Oak Cliff to North Dallas. That's why I stayed in North Dallas.
Okay.
Ernest's girlfriend stayed around the corner from where I did, and so he agreed. I paid him $5, and we left from Oak Cliff, and we got to his girlfriend's house first, and so I got out of the car, and I was walking the rest of the way home, which was probably about a couple of blocks. It would have probably took me about a little under 10 minutes to get home.
Okay.
Well, it took me 15 years. As I got out of the car, I walked up University in Dallas and got to Lemon Avenue. Lemon Avenue is where DFW Airport is, and I was walking in front of the Sewell Cadillac shop, and Lemon curves off into a street, Bluffview. And so on the corner of Lover's Lane and Bluffview, there's a Red Coleman liquor store, and I stopped there to call my friend to tell me to unlock the door, because it was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning then, and I didn't have the key. He answered. His name is James. James answered and said he'd unlock the door. I crossed the street, and as I crossed the street, I noticed a police car was sitting at the red light. I didn't pay any attention to it, and the next thing I heard was a helicopter, and it shined its light on me, and police cars came from everywhere, and they screaming, "Get on the ground!" So I lay on the ground, and then they handcuffed me and read me my Miranda rights and put me in a police car. Once I got in the police car, it was pretty much over from there. I began to ask the police officer. I was asking what's going on, and he was telling me once we get downtown that I could talk to somebody. And I'm telling him, my friend just dropped me off. I say, man, he's right around the corner. He's at his girlfriend's house. And, the next thing, we pull up at the back of a Texaco. And now I know it was on Bachman Lake. I remember seeing the lake behind me and the Texaco in front of me. And it was police cars and stuff out in the front, and they put some stuff on my hands. Now I know it was a gunshot residue test, but I didn't know what it was back then. So they put me in the police car. Got to Capers downtown, the homicide division, and the detective, DJ Hooker, came in and asked me where I was at. And everything that I just told you, I told the detective. I gave him phone numbers of Ernest that drove me from Oak Cliff to North Dallas. I gave him Ernest's mom's number because that's who house we was over. I gave him Betty's number. That was my girlfriend, who apartment I was over. I gave him James' number. That's who house I was going over. And I gave him Carla's number. That was James' girlfriend.
Right.
She knew we was together. The detective went out, called everybody. He came back. He said, Richard, your story checked out, but we have a guy that said they saw you kill one person and shoot another person, and you'll be arraigned for murder and attempted murder. And so
what?
That was May 15th. Yeah.
Wait, so we're talking about the very same night. We're talking about
yeah.
We haven't gone into the next. The sun hasn't come up yet.
No time to make a story. No time to call 5 people to tell them that. Yeah, do you see the same way how you just automatically captured that point?
Right.
They missed that night. Yeah.
Right then and there, the detective said, "Your story checks out."
Yeah.
But, and a long time ago, I learned that when you're saying something, the moment you come up with "but," it negates everything that you said before.
Yeah.
So he goes, "Your story checks out, but we have someone that said they saw you, specifically you, kill one and tried to kill another."
Yes, sir.
Now, so you said they did a gunshot residue test. And from what they did right there on the spot, they could tell that you had fired a gun?
Supposedly, yeah, so basically when they took me out of the police car, we was at the place of the shooting, and I just remember them rubbing or wiping some stuff on the palm of my hands. I still had the handcuffs on and everything. I remember some wet substance, and I remember being put back in the police car. And as I said, I found out later on that that's what that was. Interestingly, just to fast forward a bit, the gun test eventually comes back positive in the palm of my right hand, but negative anywhere else. Positive, so that she testified, excuse me. The lady testified in trial that was positive in the palm of my right hand, but negative anywhere else. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But that was the result at the point of my trial. I'll leave that like that, yeah. At the point of my trial, it was positive.
Someone said, this is some Frank Gangel bull, and I thought NYPD was bad. Again, this was 2009, you said?
No, this is 1994.
1994.
I got locked.
My bad.
Yeah, I got locked up May 15th, 1994. I was released. I was finally released in 2009.
Okay. So, 1994. That wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
I remember leaving high school in Jamaica in 1992.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Yes, sir.
we're not very far in age at all.
Right.
So, as a teenager in 94, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Yeah. So, they did little swab, the GSR swab, and
Mm-hmm.
said that you're going to be arrested at this
Mm-hmm.
moment for murder and attempted murder.
Rest. Yes.
Okay. From that moment, where did they take you and what happened?
Right. So, and feel free to stop me when you want to. But so from that point, I'm then arraigned. So I'm taken down to Louisville County Jail, and I'm arraigned for murder and attempted murder. My bond is set for $350,000, and it was at that point that I finally was able to call my mom and let my mom know that I was arrested. And so I remember calling my mom very, very early in the morning because I had stayed in the holdover. I was actually with the detective probably about 8 hours. Just through all of the interviewing and all of that stuff, I stayed with them probably about 8 hours. And so I got to the Lou Steric and I called my mom and I told my mom that I was arrested. And I remember my mom telling me, that they believed in my innocence because I told them I was innocent and they was going to be with me until everything was over. And so I'm in the county jail. We didn't have the resources for a free will attorney. So I had a court-appointed attorney. And my court-appointed attorney comes down and he sees me in the county jail. And so he lays down the evidence. Now, here's the evidence in my case. There was 10 witnesses at the scene of the crime. 9 of the witnesses said I was not the shooter. The description of the shooter was 6'2", 6'4", real dark complected, had shorts and a shirt. I'm 5'7", 5'8", light skinned, had on shorts and pants. It was the guy that was the guy that was shot testified that I did not look like the person that shot him or killed his homeboy.
Right.
It was fingerprints at the scene of the crime. This happened at a club, and outside of a club, some people pulled up at this gas station, and some guys were sitting in a car. Somebody runs up to the car, shoots in the car, and runs off. And so it's in front of the gas station, and so you have all these people standing in front of the gas station. And so where they say the shooter leaned into the car, they got the fingerprints, which didn't match mine. All of my alibis came to testify. All of my alibis came to testify where I was at, who I was with. And so what convicted me, it was one person that said, one person out of 9, or one person out of 10 said they could identify me as the shooter. And the GSR test, the gunshot residue test, came back positive in the palm of my right hand, but negative anywhere else. Well, the catch to that is, number one, I'm left-handed. And it was just a coincidence that it came back in the palm of my right hand because all of the witnesses were saying that the shooter shot with his right hand. So, number one, the evidence was fabricated, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But the fact that it just came back positive in the palm, that's the catch. If you shoot a gun, it's going to come back positive more than the palm of a person's hand. It's going to come back on the backside because the gunpowder fires back.
Right.
you know, on the wrist area, not in the palm. So potentially, and I'll say this now, when they did the test with handcuffs still on. So it's possible that the wipes were tainted by hitting one of the handcuffs, or it was cross contamination from just sitting in the police car.
Mm.
But anyway, um, we'll talk about that a little later on. So
Whoa.
so the evidence in the trial once again were 10 witnesses all together saying that they had the wrong person and that I did not look nothing like the shooter. All of my alibis, no gun, no fingerprints. Um, the description was not a match against one person saying they saw me shoot the person and the GSR test.
Someone was
This,
asking what the race was, pardon me, of
oh
the
yeah,
person that saw you commit the crime. Supposedly saw you commit the
the
crime.
African American. There's no cross racial identifications in my case. We had a very diverse jury, so I can't blame any outside of the judges. I can't blame any cross racial identifications or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, so that my jury trial was about 6 days, 8 hours of deliberation, and it came back with the guilty verdict. And they opened up special court on a Saturday because I got found guilty on a Friday night. They opened special court on a Saturday, and it gave me 40 years for the murder and 20 years for the attempted murder.
Wow.
And so at the age of 20, I was then ushered off to Cofield Unit, which is one of the biggest prisons in Texas. It houses over 5,000 men, and that's where I grew up
Mm.
for quite some time.
That's wow. So, as a 20-year-old, still fresh, basically, out of high school, because you were not free to roam about and experience some of the things that a young adult would have been doing outside of what you had started doing, looking to get into college. You are now being introduced to prison life. Whoa.
Yeah.
I whoa. Um, Real quick, I just want to take a quick opportunity to give a sponsor shout out. Thank you to Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands for sponsoring this segment of the show. Althea is a licensed massage therapist that can come to you wherever you are once you're in the Broward County area, North Miami, Miami-Dade, South Palm Beach. Just give her a call, 954-655-9000, or email her at thealater@att.net. That's Althea, 954-655-9000, thealater@att.net. Healing Heavenly Hands. Thank you, Althea. So, question in the pot. On what grounds did they come back with a guilty verdict based on the evidence presented? This sounds like
Yeah.
someone that is either quite versed in deliberations in court or court activity, or someone that watches a lot of court-based or detective-based shows. But it's a
Hmm.
good question. So,
Yeah.
found guilty on what grounds?
It was the identification
Of the one
of
person.
of the one person, and it was the testimony of the gunshot residue lady from SWIFT, which is Southwest Institute for Forensic Science. She testified that they found a level of antimonium and barium in the palm of my right hand.
Okay.
And she gave that testimony to say that it was gunpowder.
Could it be anything else?
Yes. I mean, years later, we'll talk about that, but years later, the Innocent Project actually hired a expert GSR test, and it was not even. They tested it, and my hand never was positive for gunpowder.
Okay.
The lady actually signed an affidavit years later stating that if given an opportunity, she would testify differently.
All right. Stick a pin in that one.
Yeah.
So-
I didn't want to bust the bubble on it, but yeah.
Okay. We'll stick a pin on that one for a moment. So here it is. You've been introduced to prison,
Yeah.
and not just any prison, one of the largest. You said in the state of Texas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you?
Man, it was scary. It was scary, and it's kind of easy to see how our younger generation, once they go to prison, especially when you leave from the household to the prison or from the household to juvenile to prison, because you never have the ability of choice. And so you're always walking up under somebody else's authority. And so for me, at the age of 19, going from my mom's house to the county jail, now to prison, I never had an opportunity really to figure out who I was.
Right.
And so it was very hard from the physical context, because I was one of the youngest people on this unit, co-field unit. The average person that was over there probably was there about 20 years. They had quite a bit of time to do. I have a good friend. His name is Mark. Mark been locked up over 40 years. So that gives you a sense of the people that's there.
Right.
But I was also blessed to be around a lot of good people that made bad mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first got locked up, I went to the barber shop, and I'm in the barber shop, and there's a guy named Benjamin Spencer, and I always talk about Benjamin Spencer being cut hair in the barber shop, and being asked me, he asked everybody, what are you in here for? And everybody is saying, man, I'm in here for this here, and I'm from here. And I told him, I said, man, I'm in here for murder and attempted murder. I said, man, I'm innocent. And Ben pulled me to the side, and Ben said, man, I'm innocent too. And Ben is innocent. Ben been locked up over 30 years. And Ben said, man, I've been writing this organization by the name of Centurion Ministries. They're in Princeton, New Jersey. They're one of the only organizations that works on non-DNA cases. He said, if you are innocent, he said, man, I think you need to write them. They've been working on my case, and I'm looking to go home any day now. He had been locked up a little bit over 10 years back then.
Right.
And that was eventually the Innocence organization that would get me out. But had he not took the time out to pass that message on to me, I don't know, where my life or where my time would have ended up, or how it would ended up. But
Wow.
to find somebody in your same condition.
Yes.
Because I thought I was the only innocent person in prison, And to top that, Kevin, Ben tells me, he said, man, you can work, you work in the penitentiary for free. He said, but you need to get in school, and you need to be in the law library. He said, because that's where you're going to fight your case at, in the law library. So
Right.
I ended up going to the law library, and I'm now about 21 years old, and my direct appeal is getting done by my court-appointed attorney. I meet a guy named Ricky Wyatt. Ricky Wyatt worked in the law library, and he innocent. Ricky Wyatt is another. Ricky Wyatt is another Dallas exoneree. You can look him up. He did over 30 years in prison. And so he's now teaching me how to shepherdize cases. He's teaching me about Strickland versus Washington, Herrera versus Collins, Brady versus Maryland, all of these case sightings that I need to educate myself on if I'm going to try to fight this invisible criminal justice system.
Right.
And so to answer your question, while I was, yes, afraid of my physical conditions in prison, I met a lot of good men in that land that really, God blessed me to just be amongst some great people, man. And so I learned a lot.
Oh, and I'm gonna ask you if you're in contact with any of these gentlemen. I'd love the opportunity to have a chat with them.
Oh, yeah. Now, Benjamin Spencer is still locked up. You can Google him and check out his case.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Ricky, man, I did time with probably about 6 or 7 of the Dallas exonerees, and Dallas has over 50. Yeah, and we was all on the same unit.
Wow. And I know it's a question that's on everybody's lips, and I'll go ahead and ask it. Are you all black?
The large majority of those that are wrongfully incarcerated are African American men. However, if you go to some of the national conventions, they do have national conventions, innocence networks. You will find a wide array of ethnicities and genders amongst the family of wrongful incarceration. But you do find a very high percentage that are African Americans or black. Yes.
Wow. So you got connected with you managed to connect with these gentlemen while in prison. You're now visiting the library and you're reading up on these cases. At this time, have you gotten in touch with Centurion?
Yes, so I wrote Centurion back in 1997. So that's about 3 years after I had, got arrested. Within that 3 years, my direct appeal was getting ready to be denied. My direct appeal got denied eventually. And Centurion wrote me a very generic letter back, and it was like, due to the overwhelming responses of actual innocence, the average person spends a minimum of 10 years in prison before they are able to work on their case. Well, I mean, but keep in mind that the courts gave me 60.
Right.
So I think I had 10 to spare. I wasn't going nowhere.
Right.
I mean, and I think that's really the biggest thing about oppression is the mindset while you have to go through oppression. And so I had to shift my mindset while I was going through oppression. And so on the outside, one of the key factors in incarceration is not only the individual is impacted by incarceration, but the family structure, the family dynamics is ripped apart. And so my mom and dad, they're now frantically, trying to gather resources to help out their son who they believe is innocent. They trusted in me. And so my mom eventually meets the young lady by the name of Joyce Ann Brown. Well, Joyce Ann Brown, may she rest in peace. She is one of Dallas' first African-American women that was wrongfully incarcerated. And she started an organization by the name of MASS. It was Mothers and Fathers for the Advancement of Social Services. And basically her thing was to work for people that was wrongfully incarcerated and help people coming out of prison transition back into society.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom and my dad and quite a few church members began to volunteer at her organization, and eventually my mom talks to her about my case. Come to find out, Miss Joyce Ann Brown was also exonerated through the work of Centurion Ministries.
Mm.
And so she eventually believes in my innocence, and Centurion respected Miss Brown, and Miss Brown makes the phone call to Jim McCluskey, and Jim McCluskey is the head, he was the head of Centurion Ministries. He's
Right.
now retired. And she was like, if there has ever been a Joyce Ann Brown case for a man, it's the Richard Miles case. And I think at that moment, Centurion Ministries began to take a close eye to my letters and my case, because they eventually purchased my transcripts, my police records, and that's when my whole life just really began to change
Right.
in October of 2007.
Mm.
And that was 13 years after I had been incarcerated.
You mentioned in passing the mindset that you had to have in prison.
Yeah.
What were your coping mechanisms? Because I look at some prison shows, I look at some documentaries, I watched the series When They See Us, and I see how prison is depicted.
Hmm.
I see how it can break you. What did
Hmm.
you use specifically? What were some mechanisms that you employed to help keep you going outside? Was it the fact that there was some hope that there's an organization that could take up your case and get you out in 10 years? Was it just that, or was there something more?
In me particular, I think the biggest thing was the mindset of I'm not an inmate, I'm an innocent person incarcerated.
Mm,
I could not allow my situation to dictate or change who I was.
right.
And so there is a level I think, internal fortitude, in which we have the capacity to cover ourselves in, but I mean, it takes a lot. And for me, I did not want to conform to being an inmate or convict, because that's not who I was.
Right.
Um, Exterior of that, outside of that, my coping mechanisms, I worked out a lot. So I exercised. I was in school until the budget cut kind of took the potentials of getting more than an associate's degree, because I did at least get that. My family allowed me to see past the prison walls. And the fourth thing, and nothing is really in this order, but the fourth thing I'll say is I had the opportunity to gather a better spiritual understanding, because once you're incarcerated, I mean, everything physical stops. You lose dependency on family, on friends, on you, and so it has to be something spiritual, something exterior of all of that you believe in, that's going to allow you to get up every day. And so I really had to digest, the belief system in which my mom and dad put in front of me. And, it was at that point that, I chose a more progressive, faithful walk.
Right, right, right. For those that are tuned in right now and would like to share a word or ask Richard a question, you can call in 773-789-STEW. You can text or you can jump into the stew pot on kevinstew.com. Interact with us. There's a question: how difficult was the transition from being a free man to now a wrongfully convicted human being? And I think that is really where you are at in telling your story right now,
Yeah. Hmm.
explaining to us this transition. You know what it is that you are experiencing, what is it that you're going through, and what it is you're using as a coping mechanism to stay grounded.
Right.
So now you're 13 years in,
Hmm.
and you happen to have, well, nothing really happens by accident.
Right.
But here you end up with someone in your corner that is respected by an organization that their sole purpose is fighting for those incarcerated wrongly.
Hmm.
So now they've decided to take a closer look
Yes.
at your case. What is happening
Yes,
in
sir.
this process? What are you being told is happening? Walk us through that.
Right. So it's October 2007. We're on lockdown. I'll never forget. And so I'm in the cell, and they come by. The male people come by, and they ask for my name and my TDC number, and I give them my number, and they roll the door and they push this box in my cell, and I get out the bed and I open up the box, and in the box is a letter from Centurion Ministry, and I read the letter, and they're telling me that they just purchased my transcripts and my police records. I've never had my transcripts. I filed my own writ of habeas corpus 1107, and the only thing my dad could afford was the police records.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was nothing really in those documents. And so I filed it without any transcripts. We didn't have the money to purchase it. Centurion Ministries, once I saw that they purchased my transcripts, I knew that they were serious in working on my behalf. I knew that they believed in me. They invested in me.
Right.
And that's probably one of the best things that they could have done, was just to invest in me.
Mm-hmm.
And even on a larger scale, when we invest in those individuals that are incarcerated, we give them value back. You know, even though they may never see value in themselves.
Right.
However, boom. So I'm sitting in there, man, and I began to read my transcripts, and I'm reading my whole trial. It's about 4 volumes, because my trial was 7 days. I finally get to my police records. And keep in mind, my dad purchased these records 4 years prior, and there was nothing in there for me to use. I'm opening and reading my police records, and I come across a document. The document is months before I went to jury trial, and the document is this girl that called in and told them who did the shooting. She gives the person's name. It was actually her boyfriend, and she said, "Man, I don't know who you guys have that's locked up. My boyfriend has been bragging about killing this one person and shooting another person last year." She gave the place, the type of gun. She went into details, and this document was never turned over in jury trial.
What?
But it was in the police records. And so I come across that. Now by this time I know Brady, so I know what's exculpatory evidence. Man, so I if you can imagine being in a cell, and then you get this, it's like water. It's like you've been in the desert,
Mm-hmm.
and you finally come across a well.
This is your oasis.
This is my oasis in my desert. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like sitting in this cell, and I'm immediately nervous. I feel like the God knew I was just out of there, and I needed that at that point in time. So I'm reading more in my police records. I come across another document that they said that I was the only suspect, where they had two other people that had been identified, and the people that were wounded. I mean, God risked one of their souls, but they had assault charges pending on them during trial. But none of this information was brought out. And so I sat down, man, and I wrote Centurion a letter, and I was like, man, I just found all of this information in these police records, and I've never heard of this before. Jim McCluskey, which is the head of Centurion, he wrote me back, and that was when they had finally agreed to take my case, and I would get a visit in January of 2008 from Jim McCluskey, Paul Henderson, which was my private investigator,
Right.
and Cheryl Watley, which would be my attorney, which is also now the chairman of Miles of Freedom. And that was my true dream team.
Wow. So this is now January 2008.
Yes.
So it's all engines go. Full steam
Yeah.
ahead. Let's make this happen kind of a deal.
Yeah.
They're pulling out all these stops. You said something that I had no clue about, to be honest. Your records had to be purchased.
Mm-hmm.
You have any
Yep.
idea what the cost of that purchase was?
For mine, it was going to be about $3,000.
What?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And that's just
no,
that's just the transcripts. That's your court documents. You know. Now keep in mind, I had a 6-day jury trial, and so I had a lot of documents. But still, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot.
You know, that kind of opens up your eyes to why some cases are not revisited. People don't have the money to get the documents that are necessary to dig deeper into these cases or to file appeals. They just don't have the money to do it.
Yep. Even you know, I filed my 1107, but what happened was the Court of Criminal Appeals, they denied my 1107 because I could not provide extra record evidence to substantiate my claims of actual innocence. So it wasn't that my claims were not valid. It was I didn't provide my transcripts. Well, if I don't have the money to provide my transcripts, then how can I validate my claims of anything, innocence or constitutional issues or whatever?
See, this is why incarceration, prison systems, this is why these things are big businesses. Nobody can tell me different. I'm sorry. I wasn't born here. I wasn't raised here. But even the blind can see.
Yeah.
In this case, anybody can tell. It's a business. So, the question was posted, how did your parents and the rest of your family hold up through all of this? Well, we know where your mother and father stood. They were going out there, getting involved and looking for whichever resources they could to help you.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, were you able to get regular visits?
Yeah, that was one. You know, my dad made sure that my mom visited every month. But you know, we were not. You know, so I have 2 younger brothers and 1 older sister. So it's 4 of us, and so financially wise, it was a heavy burden on my mom and dad. My dad, my dad eventually passed 6 months before I got out. But he went to sleep only after hearing from Jim McCluskey that they had finally proven and did everything that they could do in my case. So my dad was not able to make it on this side to see me out, but he literally fought. And for those that are legally inclined, my case is the first non-DNA, no confession. So ex parte Richard Ray Miles Jr. is a Texas case fighting, and it cites the work that my dad did in regards to his due diligence in purchasing those police records. Because remember, we purchased the records and the information wasn't in there.
Right.
But since that was the catch. But Interior Ministries goes and the information is in there. So we at least showed that due diligence by trying to do this here.
So, all right. Because, and I know someone that would says it just doesn't smell right. The whole thing just reeks, and I'd have to quote him by saying just that this whole thing doesn't smell right. So Centurion goes, they do their research, they buy the transcript, and there's this bit of evidence, this bit of game-changing evidence that is there. 477 expresses condolences on the passing of your father.
Yes, sir.
And as I do too, and I'm sure everybody else does as well. Here it is. That is now there. That means something was hidden, whether it be intentionally or not. Something was hidden. Does anybody get reprimanded for any of this?
Now there are some safeguards, particularly in Texas, that we have been able to lobby, and we being those that have been wrongfully incarcerated. So there are some safeguards that will hold a person somewhat accountable, but accountability is only in the eyes of the beholder, because it may be a fine, it may be 10 days in jail versus 20 years lost. In particular, in my case, there was nobody that was held accountable for their actions or inactions. Once I was fully exonerated in 2012, I did file with the state bar against the prosecutor for prosecutorial misconduct. The state bar did agree that there were areas of misconduct, but we never really heard too much after that. And so I was never really given any type of relief on the standpoint of accountability of anybody that was a part of my wrongful incarceration.
No one at all. Not the police officers, not the prosecuting attorneys, not the people giving evidence about your gunshot residue test.
And see, but I'll push the needle even further, because I do a lot of talks and stuff, and I challenge people, not even the jurors. Because what the jurors have to understand is the law holds them to a high degree. And there's a word called reasonable doubt that jurors trip over every day.
Right.
And so they are just as much a part of the orchestra of the criminal justice system as the attorney, as the prosecutor, as the judge, as the
Correct.
arresting officers, if they sit in those seats and allow just some bullcorn to be stuffed down their throats.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nobody is immune. Everybody's hands is on a person's life, and we have to start just really being sure about our convictions. Not saying that we need to do away with the criminal justice system or the prison system. There are some things that we can do better, but our jurors really need to start telling the person, prove to me beyond a reasonable doubt, so I can sleep well at night. You know?
Right. Right. Now, we touched a little bit earlier on the GSR test. Want to say
Hmm.
thanks real quick to JTMC Enterprise for sponsoring this segment of the show. JTMC Enterprise will take care of your tour management, your bookings, your promotions, your event management, your social media management, and they can be reached real easily at 678-793-8800, 678-793-8800, or visit them at jtmcenterprise.com. And it really doesn't matter if you're in entertainment or not, if you're a private entity, you can give JTMC a call. They can take care of promoting what you are doing. Um, with this GSR test,
Hmm.
you touched on it earlier, and you said you were gonna come back to it.
Yes.
Um, and we're gonna address that question in a little bit, 477, with regards to you being compensated for the time you were locked up, Richard. But
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
regard to the GSR test,
Hmm.
what was it that you were coming back to? Because at this point, along with the letter from the young lady about
Yes.
her boyfriend committing this crime,
Hmm.
there has to be something more about this GSR test.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so, so now the first thing is now this wasn't just a letter from the lady. This was a call that was called in to the homicide people.
What?
This was a report. Yeah, so this lady called into the police station. This was a report from a police officer that was inside the police file. So not a letter. She called in and told them this here. So that's the first thing. But that exculpatory evidence, hold on, that's what actually allowed us to walk out of prison in October of 2009. It was the Brady material that was in the police files that was never turned over for during trial.
Right.
Now, I was released in October 2009, pending full exoneration of actual innocence. In the 2.5 years that I was out, the other evidence that came up, the one witness that testified against me when the Conviction Integrity Unit, this was started by District Attorney Craig Watkins in Dallas, Texas, and they were the entity that began to look into wrongful incarcerations in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
They went to talk to the witness. The witness then tells them, which is the DA's office, that the prosecutor is the one that told him to testify that I was the shooter. So he signs an affidavit in 2010 stating, and this was in the Dallas Morning News, that the prosecutor told him, first he had my picture the day of trial. This gentleman told the prosecutor that he could not identify me as the shooter. The prosecutor said, after he showed him my picture, this is Richard Miles. This is the person that you picked out the night of the shooting. When you go in there, I'm going to ask you, do you see the person in the courtroom? Just point him out. This gentleman,
What?
this gentleman, the gentleman name is Mr. Marcus. Mr. Marcus. So Mr. Marcus goes in, and this is his affidavit that he puts in. He said he had never seen me a day in his life. The only reason why he pointed me out was because the prosecutor told him to. Now, my picture that he picked out the night when I was arrested, now let me connect the whole dot. The reason why he pointed me out was because he was the only witness behind the Texaco when I was arrested. The other 9 witnesses was in the front of the Texaco. So when they took me out of the police car, Marcus, I was the only person out there. So that's what you call a one-on-one tainted identification showing.
Oh,
They
my
then took
goodness.
all of the witnesses downtown, and I'm the only person in the lineup with a white T-shirt on.
You've
Everybody else
got
in the
to be
lineup
kidding.
didn't have a white T-shirt on, so I am the only person that Marcus Thurman is going to point out. Fast forward, so Marcus signed an affidavit stating that he was coerced and that he did not identify me from doing the shooting, but because the prosecutor told him. The GSR test, Centurion hired an expert analyst to look back at the test. The analyst comes back and says this test isn't even positive. There's no threshold level. The lady testified to an FBI threshold level, but there was no such thing at that point in time. So she then writes her statement. The Conviction Integrity Unit talks to the lady at Swift and asks her, why did she testify like that? She signs an affidavit stating pretty much the same thing. If given an opportunity, she would not testify in the same manner because my hands were not dirty for shooting or handling a weapon. And so the 2 pieces of evidence that actually sent me to prison, which was the testimony and the GSR test, were both fabricated. You top that on the phone call that was called in that they told them who did the shooting, and the other evidence that was in the police files, on top of my alibis and stuff that came to testify in trial, it totally broke my whole case down.
This is crazy. And none of these individuals, none of these people got charges drawn up against them.
Nope.
Ooh. I I'm getting those feelings again that I got when I was watching When They See Us.
Mm-hmm.
And those are not good. It's not a good feeling. And the tone in the stew pot right now, I don't see the questions that are being posted, kind of lean toward that, where's the conviction towards these individuals that sent an innocent individual to jail, to prison, not just to jail, to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the remainder of action from the justice system? Okay,
Yeah.
so let me pull it back a minute. Let me pull it back a little bit. Let me get back to here. Let me get back to present and be present. So October rolls around, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
That morning when you are released, walk us through that day.
Yeah, so October 2009, I had actually been, I left the prison system about 2 weeks prior. And so, what was that? It'd be September. So the latter part of September, I left Cofield unit for the first time in, 15 years.
15 years.
So I mean, in Texas, the prisons are like 2.5 hours away, tucked off in some woods, and so you're actually like coming out of this. You're coming out of history, literally, and it's so many different emotions that you're feeling. For me, man, I was excited, I was happy, I was scared. I remember I stayed in the county jail about 2 weeks, waiting on just the legal stuff that was going on. There was a lot of news centered around my case, and so I'm going back and forth to the holdovers, talking to these different reporters and so forth. And the day of my trial comes, and I remember my mom. She comes to see me, and she brings my siblings and so forth, and she bought me these clothes to wear. And I didn't know what size I wore anymore, because in prison you just be like extra large shirt, large pants. You don't know anything, So I didn't know I wore 36, 32. I had to grow up, right? So I tell my mom, she buy me these clothes, and she also brings an extra set of clothes just in case if something happens. And so right before I'm getting ready to go in front of the judge, they lose my clothes. And so my mom brings the extra set of clothes in, and the extra set of clothes belong to my dad. And so it's a picture of me walking out of the courthouse with a sack in my hand, and I have these clothes on that's just super big. Well, those are my dad's clothes, and I feel like spiritually wise, my dad wanted the victory to be with us. And so while he was not able to physically walk out with me, he walked out on me. He walked out around me, and so he still showed his support, and he walked that walk with us.
Yes.
And so we walked out of Lou Sterick. It was me, Cheryl Watley, my attorney, Jim McCluskey, had came from Princeton, New Jersey, and we held up our hands. The victory stands for lack of better words, and from that point on, it was just now rebuilding your life. How do you rebuild your life after 15 years? When I went to prison, I was 19, and when I got out, I was 34. That's a long time.
Yeah.
I used to didn't think it was a long time, but now I've been out 10 years now, and so now I have something to compare the years gone with, and I was gone a long time.
Yeah. That. Oof. So, since being out, going back to this question posted in the pot, or before I go there, the system is designed to get a conviction regardless of whether or not it is the right person. Oh, so yeah, the DA just wanted to get a conviction, and apparently you were the nearest one. Similarly, with the exonerated 5 in the New York City case, what kind of compensation did you receive for your wrongful incarceration?
Right. So I will say that we had to fight for what we were finally given.
What?
From the time? Yeah.
So you still had to fight?
No, I mean now as of 2007. 2007. Now there is a compensation in the legislation of Texas, but there was no compensation for those individuals that was wrongfully incarcerated up on my initial release. No, 2009, 10 was the compensation kicked in. And so we actually had to go to Austin consistently to lobby for changes in this regard. But upon numerous times of lobbying, what the state handed down was a compensation of $80,000 for every year that a person is incarcerated. So you multiply 80 times 15, and that gives you the numerical number of that compensation.
Okay. All right. So you're given, and you get this in a lump sum, or
Yeah.
Okay.
Lump sum.
All right. So you get this compensation. What was first thought, next action?
You know, my first thought was, what is it? Logically, man, and just being realistic. I mean, when you never been in that position, then you don't really know the value of what you have. And I just got to be honest. A lot of people, we say we die for a lack of knowledge. So I really didn't know what I had, and so really putting myself around, potential financial advisors and so forth was kind of like very key. But once I sat down, I wrote down what I wanted to do on a top level, and it was pay my tithes, buy my mom a house, get me a house, and start Miles of Freedom. And those were the 4 big things that I did with my financial resources.
So you already had Miles of Freedom, the concept of Miles of Freedom in your head?
Yes, sir. So the idea of Miles of Freedom really started when I was in prison. I said, me and this guy named Mr. Aubrey Jones, he passed last year. And he became really like a father to me. I met him in 2004, and he worked in the law library, and we used to always see the revolving door, people coming back into prison, and the challenges that people would express. And my mom and dad, they actually started a Bible study while I was in prison, so I'm doing Bible study with people in the day room, and so I always put in a position of servitude for those incarcerated. And so once I got out of prison, I'm now financially empowered to really try to do something. I mean, within the 2 years when I was out, I got out in 2009, exonerated in 2012, I went through nonprofits that was in Dallas that help, or that say that they help people. And I just didn't find anything of substance for me. Not saying that it was nothing there, but the programs that are here, the people that made them didn't go through what we went through. So they don't really know what a person needs, what type of support system a person needs coming home from prison.
Right.
So a lot of times it can be more hurtful than it can be helpful.
I understand.
And so once I was financially compensated, I just felt the need to step in the space of reentry and to build an organization that could not only provide assistance for the person that was locked up, but how can we help the family? How can we support the community? Because if we can do that, now you're actually shifting these generational cycles of systematic issues connected to incarceration.
Yeah. 477 seems to be dibbling and dabbling with things inside my head. All day I was thinking about asking you this question, and I don't know why it hadn't come back to me until just now when it was posted in the pot. Do you ever feel or get bitter about the whole experience?
I think we do. I do transition from thought to thought, but what I will say, or from emotion to emotion. But I will say that I am at peace with it,
Mm.
um, because there is a peace in being innocent.
Yes. Yes.
And and at the end of the day, the more you think about that, there is a. It doesn't matter the abuse. It doesn't matter the oppression. If you are innocent, there is a peace in just being that. And if you can maintain that peace, you're going to be able to fight through anything. And so I'm innocent. I was innocent, and I think that was the catalyst that allowed me to just break through the bitterness, the anger, the suicidal thoughts. I experienced every thought under earth, you
Mm.
know, um, but I was innocent, and I was able to eat that peace, and it became my substance.
Yes. So you mentioned some of the things that because individuals who have not gone through it can't really say what is needed, and some of the things that are being offered can be more helpful, can be more hurtful than helpful. What is it that makes Miles of Freedom so much different? W- what can someone what do you get when you contact Miles of Freedom and say, hey, I need your help?
I think the best, the best thing, but the most simplest thing that we can provide is hope. Um, because when you come in, everybody that works with us has been impacted by the system in
Mm-hmm.
some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so you see yourselves in the people that work with Miles of Freedom. And
Right.
so a person coming out of prison can see success just by the person that's helping them because they potentially was in their shoes themselves. Um, and we also try to provide this family-oriented experience because the average person that went to prison because they wanted to feel a part of something.
Right.
And they strive to be a part of something. And so if we can create an atmospheric change and allow you to feel a part of it, then that's going to be one of the pieces that allow you to want to grow to be a success out of it. And so we
Mm.
try our best to do that. Amongst the other programmatic things that we do, we have job training workshops. We have employment opportunities on our lawn service and so forth. But those things that you don't readily see, that hope, that experience, that empathy, it's all there.
What how does one get assistance from Miles of Freedom? What's the contact information? What do
Yeah.
they need to provide to get these services?
So, we are located in Dallas, more particularly, more specific in South Dallas. We are still a very small, growing organization. 7 years, we're now expanding into another community of
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, which is West Dallas. And so if a person is located in Dallas, all you got to do is walk in. We have case managers that work with people to help them achieve anything from their ID to a resume to employment. We have a young lady named Tavia Merle. She's our program director, a master social worker. She runs that kind of like uh, piece of the puzzle. We have a shuttle service that
Mm-hmm.
takes families to visit their loved ones that's incarcerated. So our website is www.milesoffreedom.org. And so that's MILES of freedom, FREEDOM, .org. And so you can pretty much see everything that we're doing. We just started a food pantry. in association with the Martin Luther King Center. And so free produces, no income restriction, no zip code restriction, working with North Texas Food Bank on Wednesdays and Saturdays, which is another job training piece that we're working on. So we're just trying to be a support system in the community, and all a person has to do is give us a call. Our number is 214-290-2337, or as I said earlier, visit the website, www.milesoffreedom.org.
Sounds simple enough. For those who are social media centered, is there a social media presence?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are on Facebook, and it is Miles of Freedom on our Facebook page. So you can most definitely go there and check out and like us and follow us. And speaking of social media, one of my board members, Trisha Bridges, God bless her heart, she nominated me or the story as a CNN hero. And so we are blessed to be one of the nominees, and we're just waiting now to see if CNN will pick us to visit New York to the Anderson Cooper show, CNN in December. So we're kind of like excited about that. Please check that video out. We're at like 1.2 million views.
What's the criteria? How do you win that spot? Do people vote, or how do you get it?
Right now, I believe it's just the views, the donations, and CNN picks 10 of the nominees that are out there. So I think it's like 12 nominees, or something. We are the second highest video watched, so we're at 1.2. So if we can shoot that up, if people feel inclined to donate, donate. I think all that helps with the nomination. But I would love to represent those wrongfully incarcerated and those impacted by incarceration on the stage of CNN, and I would love to do that.
Funny enough, that is how I came across you. I saw your feature by CNN on social media.
Yes.
And I thought, whoa, this is amazing.
It's a blessing, man. I as I say, at the age of 19, Kevin, all I had was 60 years in a bunk. And I'm just blessed, man, and I try to be a good steward of what I've been given.
Right. And I must say, based on what I've seen thus far, you are being just that. And I do believe your father would be very proud. Someone asked, have you thought of telling your story in a book?
I've been approached. I will say the story isn't over yet.
Right.
So it's not time for a book yet.
What more are you looking to do, Richard?
I want to make sure that this organization, Miles of Freedom, is a flagship in the field of reentry. I want to really start aggressively and truthfully looking at the criminal justice reform. I feel like that we need a seat at the table and a productive, open conversation. And so it's just a lot. I just want to make sure that when I'm called home, that I will be hearing those words. Well done.
Yeah.
So continually grow the organization and then possibly move into some criminal justice reform issues.
Excellent. Listen, I'm looking forward to you doing more magnificent things, because this right here, this start that you have made at present is phenomenal, and I'm truly looking forward to hearing more. In fact, if I can do something to be a part of that, to help in any way, shape, or form, I'd be honored to do so. Those regular listeners to the show would probably say, Kevin, you say that about everybody, but I say it, and I only say it because I'm willing to do it.
Yes, sir.
And someone asked if you have any thoughts of running for district attorney.
No. No. I'm good in my space right now.
But yeah, I am here, and so is my platform. KevinStew.com, the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It is also here. And
Yes, sir.
I do hope and pray that you get to connect with City Commissioner Dr. Shirley McKellar, your neighbor,
Yes.
so to speak. It's just
Yes.
100 miles that separate you. It's a little bit of a drive, but
Oh,
it's not the East Coast to the West Coast.
right. That's not that far at all.
Right. So
Yes, sir.
I know you'd get at least one vote running if you decided to run for DA, because the opinion in the pot is that you are more qualified than those elected idiots, quote unquote.
All right. Well, I'm one away from that seat. Appreciate you.
Right. So I do hope you get connected with Dr. McKellar. I believe that you can do great things in the state of Texas, and that what you're doing would be contagious. I would love to have a contact with Centurion Ministries
Yes.
also, because of the work that they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I came across a little bit of information. I must confess, I did read up on your case.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little research on Centurion also.
Mm-hmm.
And one interesting thing that I found was that it costs about $350,000
Yep.
to pursue the overturning of a wrongful conviction,
Mm-hmm.
to pursue the innocence of the innocent. It costs about
Right.
$350,000.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You don't find a lot of people with having that kind of money.
Right.
You really don't. So
And
when you come across an organization doing something like that, it's worth, saying something about them.
right. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because Centurion is they're considered the godfather, the grandfather of the innocence movement.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it costs so much, because they are one of the few organizations that do non-DNA work. And that's very expensive. That's very time cumbersome.
Yes.
But on the other end, if somebody invests that much in you, then what less can you do for that organization or for the movement?
Indeed. So very
I
true.
am an advocate. I'm an advocate for Centurion. I'm an advocate for those wrongfully incarcerated and those impacted by incarceration, because people invested in me.
And the interesting thing is that most of those wrongfully incarcerated cannot afford it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes.
So
Freedom is very expensive, and people don't even know it.
yeah,
Freedom is expensive.
things we take for granted.
Yes, it's expensive.
Wow. Freedom is expensive and the prison system is a business.
Yes. And we caught in the middle.
Right. Richard,
Yes.
I want to thank you for taking the time out to share your story with us,
Yes,
to
sir. Thank you.
to invest what some of what has been invested in you in creating miles of freedom and doing the work that you're doing, helping others, bridging that gap from prison to promise. I think that's just awesome. And I pray your success as you continue in
Thank
your
you.
endeavors. And again, whatever I can do to help, if it's even just to share a post, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure there's nothing that is too small. Um, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate this opportunity. Just keep us out there and feel free. I mean, if you ever want to talk again, dialogue,
Oh,
give me a
yes.
call.
Oh, yes.
Please share our CNN information out there.
Definitely.
Information, just consider us as locked in the struggle, moving
I
together.
had shared it before and I will share it again.
Yes. Thank you.
In the stew pot, just before we get out of here, thanks for sharing and I wish you success in your and with your organization. God bless you, my brother, from 477 in the stew pot. So
Thank you, 477. God bless you as well.
Richard, have yourself a
Yes,
great
sir.
night. Thank you, your family on
Yes.
behalf of
Yeah, I
the
got to
night
thank
shift.
my wife.
Yes,
I
yes.
told you I got to tell my wife. I'm not talking. I'm talking to Kevin.
Please tell her I said thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, we'll do, man.
All right. You take care
You
now.
take it easy. Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, what can I say? Richard Miles. Miles of freedom. Bridging the gap between prison and promise. Go look him up. And I will be sharing that CNN feature. So if you don't find it out there in your own searches, just check out my social media. You will see it there. Trust me, you will see it there. You have my word. We're gonna jump into our musical therapy real quick. But just before that, I want to go ahead and take care of a couple of bills. We'll be right back.
Pulse Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulse Media Group.
Are you crazy about the music industry? You aspire to hit it big in music? Or maybe you've sweated out a soulful killer beat and are now stuck finding it's not as easy as it looked. Oh, but it can be easy for you with JTMC. We've been there. We know how it feels. So we solve challenges like production, promotion, marketing, branding and development, and more. With over 30 years of experience, JTMC is a one-stop shop for artists. We handle your graphic design, writing services, PR, as well as event planning, e-blasts, artist management, and bookings, so also your website and social media needs as well. We're experts in using creativity to persuade audiences on behalf of artists, drawing on our diverse experience to create projects that connect with audiences intellectually and emotionally. Artist success is everything to us, and our years of experience and commitment will be behind you for every one of your needs. If you've got music for the world to hear, whether you're a new or established artist, visit us at jtmcenterprise.com.
Seems to me that I am always trying desperately to hold on to the clouds passing before my eyes, hoping to find that silver line. The pot of gold they said for sure that's waiting at the end of the rainbow turns out to be a pile of stones. One day somebody wise sees dejection in my eyes, and they know a little bit about my past. They don't say a lot of words, but the truth my heart has heard will completely change the way I live my life. She said, the promise is not the price. This is not the price. There are benefits along the way, but all I really want to gain is Christ. Because the promise is not the price.
The sound of Nicolay. It's called The Promise Is Not the Prize. Welcome to Musical Therapy.
Chasing all the things that God had said that He wanted to be mine. I thought I'd leave all hardship behind, but somewhere in the dust of my ambition, I left to rust the faith that God had graciously bestowed. Now I realize the debt I owe, 'cause the substance of religion doesn't lie in wealth or health. Destiny does not depend on what I own. The one thing that God desires is that my heart be set on fire to pursue this Christ, lover of my soul. Because the promise is not the prize. The promise is not the prize. There are benefits along the way, but all I really want to gain is Christ. Oh, the benefits along the way can tempt my heart to stray away from gazing at the everlasting light. But now I really understand, though God delights to show His hand, He wants me to draw closer to His heart. Every day that dawns can bring me nearer to knowing God much deeper than I did the day before. Will I walk through the open door? Will I walk through the open door? benefits along the way. But all I really want to gain, all I really want to gain is Christ. Because the promise is not the price.
Her name is Nicolay. The promise is not the prize.
Gonna wish you love.
Gonna wish you love.
This is Jason Mighty. It's called Wish You Love.
Genuine love. Though you made me, I'm gonna wish you love. Use me, I'm gonna wish you love. Deceive me, I'm gonna wish you love. 'Cause love is the key to life. Know you fake, but I'm gonna wish you love. Two-faced, but I'm gonna wish you love. You a snake, but I'm gonna wish you love. 'Cause love is the key to life. I am not like you, so I can't do the things you do. God said to love my enemy. Pray for those this might fully use me. Give you my only pair of shoes. Still you wanna take my socks from me. But it's okay, you can't take my heart away. Though you hate me, I'm gonna wish you love. Use me, I'm gonna wish you love. Deceive me, I'm gonna wish you love. 'Cause love is the key to life. Though you fake, but I'm gonna wish you love. Two-faced, but I'm gonna wish you love. You a snake, but I'm gonna wish you love. Love is the key to life. Don't need to be pretending. Hatred and bitterness is showing. Ain't gonna do nothing for you. Pray God have mercy on you. I pray you change all your ways now. After all you've done, God still have love for you. Though you hate me, I'm gonna wish you love. Use me, I'm gonna wish you love. Deceive me, I'm gonna wish you love. 'Cause love is the key to life. Know you fake, but I'm gonna wish you love. Two-faced
Funny thing about love,
love. You a snake, but I'm gonna wish you love.
you don't have to deserve it for me to give it to you.
Change all your ways now.
Sounds weird, doesn't it?
God still have love for you. I pray you change
Let that sink in for a moment.
ways now. After all you've done, God still have mercy on you.
I want to say thanks to GMAT Music Solutions for sponsoring this segment of the show. Providing you with sound engineers, musical equipment, DJs, MCs, you name it. GMAT Music Solution can bring your event to life. Give them a call, 754-307-GMAC, 754-307-4622.
Hello?
This is Ed Robinson. Brand new music from him.
Yeah, what?
It's called Stranded.
Making sure that my pocket's flat left me feeling like a lonely child. Walking out on life, boy, there was no sympathy. Nobody never cared about we know. How could we stay strong when everything we do was wrong? They left me stranded all day, so I cried in the rain. So no one else could see my pain. They left me stranded. places with no smile on their faces. Got myself wanted. Them cop friends said dead, but better alive. Bless. Just because I sneeze, swear they got me on my knees. They left me stranded, and yes I cried in the rain, so no one else can see my pain. Not my tears. They left me stranded. Yes I cried in the rain, no one else could see my pain. Thought they had me then, yeah. Thought they stopped me then, yeah. Thought they'd break me then, yeah. Please, but look at them now. Swear they had me then, think again. Swear they break me then, think again. Them swear them done me then, boy. But where are they now? When them left me stranded, wonder what I hit. So I cried in the rain, so no one else can't see my pain. They left me stranded. Yes, I cried in the rain, so no one else could see my pain. Listen this. Serious example for a guy who feel like he want to fight down the next man. Yeah. A next brethren or a next musician. Just remember, enough time drummers become singers. Watch your manners. These dogs might be sweating, but long hair covers it. Sometimes we play in the rain to hide with tears. We not show fear. They left me stranded for death, so I cried in the rain, so no one else could see my pain. They left me stranded, exposed. Yes, I cried in the rain, so no one else could see my pain. No tears, stranded for death, so I cried in the rain. Yeah, no one else could see my pain.
As we roll out, I want to invite you to catch Melissa Jane tomorrow. Stuck on her old name. Catch Melissa Jane tomorrow, just before I get on with Healthy Love.
When we get
She'll be chatting with Nadia Assad about her 4th annual Back to School Family Health event, which will take place on the 23rd of July right here in Lauderhill in Broad County. So you definitely don't want to miss that. That's Nadia Assad on the Melissa Jane show tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. Alright? Don't miss it. And even if you miss it, you want to go and catch the replay. And then I'm back here 10 p.m. same place, kevinstew.com, from 10 p.m. to midnight with Healthy Love. Rolling out with Miss Novelty. Tough like a diamond. I want to say thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank you for your contributions. Look him up, Richard Miles, Miles of Freedom. This one right here. Catch you all tomorrow. Peace and love.
This is how I fight, flat footed on the ground, flat footed on the ground. Can't keep me down, no, can't keep me down. Back broad, stand tall, flat footed on the ground. Tough like a diamond, you know I'm strong like titanium. Tough like a diamond. like a diamond, strong like titanium. Knock me down, but I won't stay down. Tough like a diamond, strong like titanium. Tough like a diamond. Knock me down, but I won't stay down. Tough like a diamond, strong like titanium. Tough like a diamond. Knock me down, I get back on my feet again. Keep me down, no, can't keep me down. Back broad, stand tall, back on my feet again. This is how I fight. This is how I fight. This is how I.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.